My wife divorced me and went on a trip with the man she was cheating with, convinced she'd still get a cut of my parents' massive trust. What she got instead was, "Hi, I'm Ethan, 30M. I'm going to try to lay everything out clearly because, honestly, my head is still catching up. My whole life I've been labeled the trust fund kid. A lot of people treated me like a walking wallet. They'd get close thinking I'd be the type to throw extravagant parties, fly everyone out somewhere glamorous, and pay for everyone's drinks. And every time they realized I wasn't that guy, they disappeared. It's true my parents set up a very large trust for me, but I also knew what it took to build that money. It didn't appear overnight. One careless decision could have damaged my father's business and the people who depended on it. So, I worked hard every single day to grow what he built. And recently, I came terrifyingly close to making the kind of mistake that can ruin a person for good. Her name is Lena, 28F. My wife, well, ex-wife now. For years, I thought she was the love of my life. In college, I didn't date much. I've never been into casual hookups. I always believed if I dated someone, it should be with the intention of building a real future. But once word got out about my family's wealth, I attracted the wrong kind of attention. When people think you have money, they suddenly want to be your best friend. They want access, they want perks, they want to live off you. I did lend money to a few friends in the past. I picked up tabs sometimes, but nothing over the top. Certainly nothing like the stereotypes people imagine. I always believed you can be generous in moderation without turning into a personal ATM. Still, I rarely trusted anyone. Then, at my graduation celebration, I met Lena. She acted like she didn't know who I was. We started talking casually, and it felt easy, natural, like I was just another person. We exchanged numbers, and on our first date, I took her to a fast food place. Nothing fancy at all. And we laughed like teenagers the whole time. She didn't complain. She didn't act disappointed. I remember thinking, finally, someone who likes me for me. Lena was my first serious love. She wasn't trying too hard. She didn't look like she was performing. She was funny, sharp, and confident without being loud about it. She made me feel normal. After about a month, I brought her to meet my parents. She wasn't starstruck. She wasn't overly impressed. She just accepted my life with calm neutrality. At the time, I took that as a good sign. What never crossed my mind back then was the darker possibility that she wasn't surprised because she already knew exactly who I was, long before we ever randomly met, and that getting close to me was never accidental, that I wasn't a lucky coincidence. I was a target. Lena was charming with my parents, elegant, polite, warm. My parents were thrilled because I'd never brought anyone home before. They thought I'd finally found someone genuine. We dated for a year. During that entire time, she refused expensive gifts. Her explanation was always, "Not until we're married." It made her seem principled. It made her seem sincere. So, I proposed, she said yes, and she continued being perfect around my parents. She even told them her only request was that nobody ever pressure her to quit working. She said she wanted to help build our future, not just enjoy it. My mother hugged her and told her she was proud I'd found a partner like that. Lena worked in tech and earned decent money herself. She traveled often for work. I later learned she wasn't always traveling for work. On our second wedding anniversary, my parents hosted a large family event. During the party, they announced they wanted to give Lena a special gift. They planned to add her as a beneficiary alongside me. That's also when they introduced her more formally to the trust's administrator, Gavin, who handled accounting and oversight through the firm managing the trust. Gavin had a wife, Claire, and a young daughter. Everything was handled cleanly on paper. Lena's name was added as a beneficiary. My wife seemed thrilled, but not in an obvious way. She knew how to play subtle. She kept bonding with my parents and doing everything to look like the ideal daughter-in-law. At family events, she was always eager to attend, always dressed perfectly, always accidentally in the right conversations. And looking back, I can't believe how blind I was. More than once, I noticed Lena talking with Gavin off to the side, laughing a little too much, leaning in too close, blushing, wine glass in hand. At the time, I brushed it off as friendly conversation. I trusted her completely. But the truth was, they were having an affair for a long time, right under my nose. Lena was an expert performer. She treated everyone so convincingly that the idea of suspecting her felt insane, like I'd be accusing an angel of something evil. 7 years into our marriage, my parents died within 6 months of each other. That period was a blur of grief and pressure. I threw myself into work because the company couldn't pause just because my world collapsed. I didn't have the luxury of falling apart publicly. That's when Lena started showing her real self. After the funeral, she became distant. She didn't comfort me. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't even try. I told myself she was grieving too. I tried to give her space. 2 weeks passed. I decided I needed to bring some warmth back into our home, so I left work early one day and bought her flowers. Pink roses, her favorite. I used my key, walked into the house, and found Gavin standing there. For a second, I was confused. I asked if he'd come to discuss trust matters. Then Lena appeared behind him with 2 suitcases. Gavin had 2 suitcases too. Lena looked at me like I'd interrupted an inconvenient appointment. She said something like, "Oh, I was going to do this quietly. I planned to leave a note, but I guess we'll do it face to face." Then, flat and cold, "I'm leaving you. I'm moving in with Gavin. We're taking a trip to Santorini first. And when we get back, we're filing for divorce. He's divorcing Claire, too." And then she added the line that still makes me sick. "Your parents made sure I'll have enough to live comfortably anyway." She grabbed the roses from my hand as if she was entitled to them, smirked, and walked out. They were gone before I could even process what was happening. For 2 days, I didn't function. I didn't open curtains. I barely ate. I kept the TV on because silence felt unbearable. I didn't shower. I didn't leave my bed except to exist. On the 3rd day, someone started ringing my doorbell nonstop. I ignored it, hoping they'd leave. They didn't. The ringing turned into pounding. Then I heard a woman's voice through the door. "I know you're in there. Open up. I'm not leaving." For a second, I thought it was Lena, and the thought made me feel physically ill. Then I remembered she was on vacation with her affair partner. I dragged myself to the door and opened it. A red-haired woman in a sharp suit was standing there, furious enough to light the street on fire. She said, "Your wife ran away with my husband. Sitting here rotting won't fix anything. Go shower. Now. Then we're talking." I didn't respond fast enough, and she shoved past me like she owned the place. She glanced at me and said, "And for the record, you smell terrible." I muttered something like, "Okay, Mom," and she yelled from the hallway, "I heard that." And somehow, despite everything, I laughed. When I came out of the shower 15 minutes later, my living room was clean. So was my kitchen. She introduced herself properly. Claire, Gavin's wife. She told me she'd been trying to reach me at work for 2 days. When she couldn't get through, she came in person because she realized something important. The cheating wasn't the only betrayal happening. Claire said she hadn't suspected Gavin either, until he left and said he'd send someone later to collect the rest of his things. Instead of collapsing, she started digging. She went through his laptop. His social accounts were still logged in. His messages were there. The affair wasn't hard to confirm once she looked, but then she found something worse. Documents tied to my trust. Claire believed Gavin had been siphoning money out, small amounts at first, subtle enough to avoid detection, then bigger, riskier, like he got comfortable, like he thought he was untouchable, and he wasn't doing it alone. One of the beneficiaries had been helping. My wife. Claire had evidence. Not just suspicion, evidence. She looked me in the eyes and said, "I have a child. I'm not letting him destroy our lives and walk away. I'm taking him down. and I'm taking your wife down too. She told me I didn't have to be involved if I didn't want to be, but something about her clarity, her rage, her focus, made me trust her instantly. So I agreed. While my ex-wife was on the beach pretending she'd won, Claire and I were preparing to burn the fantasy down around her. 10 days later, Lena and Gavin came back. We waited. On Monday, Lena called me, furious. She shouted, "What is going on? Gavin says we're in trouble. Where is my money?" I said, "You mean my parents' money? The money Gavin was using to buy you gifts and fund your new life?" She started yelling again, but I cut her off. "Talk to the lawyers. By the way, the person leading this is Claire, and yes, she works with the firm too." Then I hung up. That same evening, Lena was waiting outside my office. I tried to walk past her, but she stepped into my path. I'd never seen her so rattled. She demanded I explain what was happening in simple terms, because Gavin's version didn't make sense, so I told her plainly. The divorce can move forward, but she won't get a cent, and the fraud investigation was already in motion. The panic on her face was instant, and I hate admitting this, but part of me enjoyed it. After what she did, seeing her confidence collapse felt like justice. Then guilt hit me because I still had feelings for her at that point. Feelings I didn't want. Feelings that made me feel weak and stupid. I left before she could start manipulating me. Behind me, she screamed, "How could you do this to me?" I didn't turn around. Gavin was served termination papers. The firm couldn't afford the scandal. Clients were already calling to pull contracts. Damage control meant cutting him loose immediately. Claire had a network of strong attorneys and set everything in motion fast. She was pushing for custody and making sure the financial crimes didn't get swept under the rug. I went home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. But I still needed to ask, am I being too harsh on Lena? Update 1. It's been a week. I started therapy. My therapist said writing everything out was a valid coping strategy, and that it's normal to grieve the person you thought you knew. He said the shock makes you swing between anger and guilt. Lena called me again. This time she sounded like she'd been crying. She asked if I'd eaten. When I said no, she offered to come over and cook for me. I was stunned. She took my silence as agreement and said she'd be at my place in 30 minutes. I snapped out of it and said, "No, absolutely not. After what you did, you want to come here and pretend we're normal?" She said sweetly, "Baby, we can talk. Things have been bad." I yelled, "Bad? You call this bad? What you did was cruel." Then she said something that flipped a switch in me. "Stop overreacting." That's when I really saw her. No remorse, no shame. Just annoyance that I wasn't cooperating. She started insisting the lawsuit made her look like a gold digger, and that it wasn't fair because she had a job and earned her own money. I almost reminded her that I'd helped pay off her student loans and supported our lifestyle for years, but she didn't care about facts. She cared about control. Then she admitted her real goal. She wanted us back together and wanted me to withdraw the lawsuit. I asked, "What about Gavin?" She shrugged verbally and said he was just something different, a change from her boring life. Then she blamed me for being busy after my parents died, and she described the affair as passionate while calling me emotionally absent. It was like listening to someone try to justify stabbing you. She insisted again on coming over. I ended the call and called Claire immediately. Claire told me to call Lena back and pretend to agree, because she wanted to see what Lena was really after. So I called Lena again. She answered smugly, like she'd already won. She said she'd be there soon. Claire arrived first. She didn't have time to explain her plan fully. She told me to seat Lena at the dining table when she arrived. Lena showed up dressed like she was going on a date. She kissed me and tried to head toward my bedroom. I stopped her and asked her to sit down. She pouted and tried the old manipulation. Did I lose my rights that easily? Was your love that weak? Aren't you going to fight for us? Then Claire stepped out of my bedroom. Lena froze. Claire smiled and said, "So this is you, the woman sleeping with my worthless husband." Then Claire added, And yes, you did lose the right to the bedroom. Lena turned on me and screamed, "You replaced me already? You're sleeping with his wife after ruining my life?" Then she started ranting about debts. Debts she implied were shared between her and Gavin. She blamed me for Gavin losing his job, blamed me for the trust money being frozen, blamed me for everything. Claire asked calmly, "Debts? What debts? Were you helping him move money around?" And then Lena did something unbelievably stupid. She admitted it. She shouted, "Yes, I helped him. From day one. Do you think he could have planned it alone? Of course I helped." Claire looked at me with a quick expression that said, "There it is." I got the message and opened the door. Lena stormed out, screaming insults. When the door closed, I asked Claire what just happened. Claire pressed stop on a recorder. She said, almost cheerfully, "We got a confession." Update 2. Claire didn't waste time. She sent the recording to Lena's employer with context, explaining that Lena admitted to financial wrongdoing and had participated in fraud. Claire also had a connection to a business partner involved with Lena's company and used that relationship to apply pressure. A deal was suddenly pulled. Leadership panicked. To protect the company, they fired Lena. Now both Lena and Gavin were jobless and drowning. Gavin spammed Claire with calls and texts. She blocked him. I can't lie. A part of me felt satisfaction I didn't know I was capable of. My therapist told me Lena could be a case study in narcissism. That actually made me laugh for the first time in a while. Also, Gavin was taken into custody briefly, and Lena reportedly drained her savings to cover bail. Update 3. Claire called me furious one morning. Gavin showed up at her house drunk, ringing the bell repeatedly, screaming insults. Her security camera caught everything. When she told him to leave, he tried to force his way in. He only stopped when she threatened to call the police. The worst part was their little daughter, Maya, woke up and saw it. Claire had to go file a restraining order and couldn't find a sitter at short notice. I went over to help. When I arrived, Maya wouldn't come out of her room. The silence worried me. I imagined worst-case scenarios, so I carefully got the door open. She wasn't in the bed. Then I saw movement. She was hiding under it, trembling. She asked if I was her dad's friend and whether her dad sent me. I introduced myself gently and told her I was her mom's friend, not her dad's. She asked if he was gone. I told her yes, and I said her mom was strong enough to protect her. Maya started crying and said she was scared her dad would come back and hurt her mom. I told her he wouldn't, and that I wouldn't let that happen. I put on her favorite animated movie, warmed up food, and stayed calm until she relaxed enough to eat. When Claire came back, she found Maya asleep on my chest, and me half asleep too. That night, Maya clung to my legs and begged me not to leave because she didn't want to be alone if her dad came back. So I stayed. The next morning, Claire made pancakes, and I went straight to work. Maya made me promise I'd come back. So, yeah, that's my life right now. Spending nights at Claire's house so a little girl can sleep without fear. Claire has been trying to find a good child psychologist, but it's been difficult so far. Update 4. The first hearing happened. From what I understand, even as someone who isn't a legal expert, Lena and Gavin are in serious trouble. The evidence is overwhelming. It should be straightforward, but courts move slowly, so it'll still drag out. Claire believes it could wrap within about 6 months, and she believes there's a real chance both of them will serve time. In the divorce, neither of them is getting anything from the trust, and Gavin will still owe child support. They've been trying to find work, but keep striking out. I heard Gavin is doing late-night cleaning work at a club. I also heard he got beaten up by people he owed money to. Outside court, he fell to his knees begging Claire to take him back. But everyone sees him clearly now. Claire's lawyer says the case is so strong that Gavin may not even get visitation.